Hello, and welcome to another episode of What Would You Do? Today's episode is going to cover the issue of sexual ethics, specifically concerning adultery. Our team has created two separate stage scenarios, each of which imply a man or woman committing the act of adultery. Each of these will be performed in front of a bystander, carefully selected based on varying religion. The first scenario covers the issue of a woman committing adultery. In this scenario, I, Sabrina Valdivia, will be acting as a married woman seen taking off my wedding ring at a dance club I will attend for the night. The bystander chosen for this scenario, Angelina Savarese, is a white female atheist who will be attending the same club. The second scenario covers the issue of a man committing adultery. In this scenario, one member of our team, Kyle Fuchsa, will be acting as a married man purchasing flowers for not one, but two women on Valentine's Day. The bystander chosen for this scenario, Allie Wilbur, is a white female Catholic who works for the checkout at the flower shop the man will buy his flowers from. Throughout this episode, we will be able to observe how varying religion affects how individuals react to situations which imply that an act of adultery will be committed, and how each views the morality of adultery. Let's take a look at how these scenarios progress and their outcomes.
IDs, please. You good. You good. You look like a man, though. Have a nice time.
Oh, we will.
What's that supposed to mean?
Okay, I'm actually going to the bathroom real quick.
Okay, I'll be over there. Guess I won't be needing this tonight. I should probably take it off before anyone notices it.
Well, looks like someone's trying to have a good night tonight, huh?
What do you mean?
The wedding ring. I saw you take it off.
Oh, no, it's not like that. I was just trying to...
Don't worry about it. You know, you don't have to make up lies. I do the same thing.
Oh, well, in that case, yeah, my husband really hasn't been around lately, and I'm just trying to find some good company.
You know, I'm actually trying to do the same. Maybe we should look together.
Yeah, we could do that.
You know, there's a cute guy over there that kind of looks lonely. Why don't you go talk to him?
Yeah, you're right.
I'll come with you.
Now that we have seen how scenario 1 played out, we will transition to an interview conducted with the bystander. So I'm here today on behalf of the What Would You Do reality TV show. What you just took part in was a stage scenario designed to see how bystanders would react to another individual committing the act of adultery. My team would like to interview you about the situation that just occurred. We noticed that you did not try to stop the woman from cheating on her husband. We would like to know why you did not try and stop her.
Well, I didn't try to stop her because I don't really see the big deal of what the woman was doing. She mentioned that her husband has been neglecting her. What's wrong with her trying to find a little attention somewhere else?
So you're saying that circumstance of the situation, the woman's husband neglecting her, justifies her actions?
Essentially, yes.
Have you ever thought to think about what the moral object of the situation is, and that even with the circumstance of the woman's situation, the act may still be wrong?
I recognize that the moral object of the situation is the woman taking off her wedding ring to hide that she is married, meet another man, and ultimately commit adultery. However, if the circumstance of the situation is not enough to justify the means, I believe that the intention of the woman is enough.
What do you believe was the intention of this woman?
I believe that her intention was not to hurt her husband, but rather to make herself feel better.
So even though the woman would be committing the act of adultery, you believe that both her circumstance and her intention justify her immoral act?
Yes.
Interesting. Now I'm going to pose to you both the virtue and vice of this act. The virtue is faithfulness. This virtue relates to adultery because it's important to stay faithful to one's partner in marriage. Though the contract of a marriage, a commitment is made between two individuals to remain faithful to each other, no matter what the circumstance may be. The virtue of faithfulness calls for people to resist temptation and remain faithful no matter what. The vice of this situation is selfishness. The person who commits the act of adultery, in this case the woman you encountered, has not grown out from herself in a spiritual way, but has instead strayed within the selfish aspect of who they are. This vice relates to adultery because the person who commits adultery practices selfishness when they stray from their partner and they're unfaithful for selfish reasons. Now I ask you, do the knowledge of the virtue and vice of adultery change your opinion at all?
Well, I have to admit, they do make me think harder about the morality of the situation. Something that stood out to me was when you said that the vice relates to adultery because a person practices selfishness when they are unfaithful to their partner for selfish reasons. Thinking back to what I answered earlier about the circumstance and the intention of the situation justifying the act, I now see that the woman's circumstance and intention were selfish. Even though she has been lonely and has felt neglected by her husband, it is not right for her to cheat on him. That is very selfish of her.
If this situation, or a situation similar to this one, were ever to occur again, would you react differently?
I would. I would inform the adulterer as to how and why their act is wrong instead of encouraging it.
Well, that's all the questions I have for you. Thank you for your time. Your participation in this experiment is greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Hello, how are you today?
I'm good, and you?
I'm doing fine. Wow, what beautiful flowers. What special lady are these for?
Actually, it's two special ladies.
Really? Relatives?
No, my wife.
And what about the other special lady?
Oh, she's just a special friend of mine.
Oh. Alright, this will be $40.
Okay.
You know, I'm really wondering who this special friend of yours is. Who else would you be buying flowers for on Valentine's Day other than your wife?
It's really none of your business.
You're acting awfully suspicious. I hope your wife is aware of whoever the second bouquet of flowers is going to. That's what I thought. It is not right to do what you're doing. You have an obligation to remain loyal to your wife. She, and only she, should be cherished by you, especially on Valentine's Day.
Well, you don't really have any right to invade my personal life. May I please have the flowers?
Now that we have seen how scenario 2 played out, we will transition to an interview conducted with the bystander. So I'm here today on behalf of the What Would You Do reality TV show. The situation that just occurred was a staged scenario designed to see how bystanders would react to another individual committing the act of adultery. My team would like to interview you about how you reacted. We noticed that you immediately intervened in the situation when you realized that Kyle was a married man and was buying flowers for someone other than his wife. What made you do this?
Well, I know that it is morally wrong to be doing what Kyle was doing. As a Catholic, I strictly adhere to the Catholic perspective on issues such as these. The Catholic perspective on adultery is that it is forbidden by the Sixth Commandment and has in it a twofold malice. In common with fornication, it violates chastity, and it is a sin against justice. Adultery is an injustice. He who commits adultery fails in his commitment. He does it injury to the sign of the covenant, which the marriage bond is, transgresses the rights of the other spouse, and undermines the institution of marriage by breaking the contract on which it is based. He compromises the good of human generation and the welfare of children who need their parents' stable union. This grievous sin is far worse than fornication, for it violates not only chastity, but it is a gross violation of justice, committed against the true spouse of the married party or against both spouses of the married parties. Because of this, I knew I had to say something.
Can you elaborate a little bit more as to why committing the act of adultery is so morally wrong?
Well, I also follow all Catholic social teachings. The Catholic social teaching related to adultery is one's call to family, community, and participation. This relates to adultery because it tells us that marriage and family are the central social institutions that must be supported and strengthened, not undermined. By engaging in sexual relations with someone other than your spouse, you undermine your relations with that spouse, with your children, and with God.
How do you know that adultery undermines one's relationship with God?
The Bible, which is the Word of God Himself, teaches against adultery. There are many instances in which the Bible speaks against adultery.
Can you give some examples?
Sure. Adultery is said to be wrong in the Ten Commandments, shown in Exodus chapter 20, verse 14, which says, "Thou shalt not commit adultery." In Hebrews chapter 13, verse 4, the Bible reveals that those who commit adultery will be judged by God. This verse states that marriage is honorable in all, and the bed undefiled. But whoremongers and adulterers God will judge. The Bible even speaks to the extent on which adultery goes. This is said in Matthew chapter 5, verse 28. "But I say unto you that whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after her hath committed adultery with her already in his heart."
Thank you, Allie. That's all of the questions I have for you today. All of your answers have been very inspiring. Based on the outcomes of and the interviews conducted for each scenario, we can see that the atheist reacted by not only not speaking out against adultery, but encouraging it. The Catholic, on the other hand, reacted by intervening in the situation and speaking against the act of adultery. Well, that's all for today's episode. Thank you for watching, and make sure to tune in again next time.